puts it up. Michael Jordan. Oh, my goodness. Got it. Unbelievable. Green's two-putt as good as it gets.
We welcome you back to Kansas City, Missouri for the finale of our second round coverage. And this certainly has the feel of a home game for Kansas. It is a packed house, better than 18,000 turning out. Many have made the trip from Lawrence, about 45 minutes west of Kansas City. The 16th seed in the South region, the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky, facing the Jayhawks of Kansas, the #1 seed in this region. Hi everybody, Marv Albert with Steve Kerr. Will be joined in a moment by Craig Sager. And what a year it's been for Kansas. They had that little bump, but they have won 10 of the last 11. The 29-25 for the season. They won the regular season title, won the Big 12 Conference. This is a team that is loaded.
They are, Marvin. Maybe they're the best equipped team in the country to win the national championship because they've got some of everything. They're the best defensive club in the country when you look at their field goal percentage defense. A lot of that based on the rim protection of Jeff Withey. They've also got senior leadership. They're smart. They've got tournament experience. And on top of all that, they've got this man, Ben McLemore, maybe the most talented player in the country, somebody they can rely on when times get tough and they need baskets. McLemore can get them for them.
And Steve, for Western Kentucky, it's been the same script as a year ago.
Yeah.
So-so regular season and then come on strong to make it to the big dance.
Yeah, Ray Harper, the coach of Western Kentucky, it may not be well known, but he is a fantastic coach, has had all kinds of success at the collegiate level, particularly at the NAIA and Division II levels, but his sophomore TJ Price was the most outstanding player of the Sun Belt Conference tournament. He's really good. And we talked to Bill Self yesterday. We said, what do you think of Western Kentucky? He said they're scrappy, they can score, they can make plays, and he doesn't think this is going to be an easy game by any means.
But the Hilltoppers will face a difficult task going up against the #1 seed, the Jayhawks of Kansas.
Coverage of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is sponsored by AT&T, Miller Lite, and by E-Trade.
Back in Kansas City, a check of the starting lineups for Western Kentucky. Undersized, very scrappy team. Sophomore TJ Price, their leading scorer, averages 15 a game. And senior point guard Jamal Cook makes this club go. As for Kansas, they start 4 seniors plus the sensational freshman Ben McLemore. And their center, the 7-footer Jeff Withey, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. This is a team that holds opponents to 36% shooting. They lead the nation in that department. Bill Self, in his 10th year as head coach at Kansas, won the NCAA championship in 2005, went to the title game a year ago. And the head coach of Western Kentucky, Ray Harper, who has won 2 Division II national titles with Kentucky Wesleyan and 2 NAIA Division I championships with Oklahoma City University. Pretty impressive. The officiating crew, the lead official Mike Kitts, working along with Tim Clockerty and Frank Harvey.
Great line from Bill Self yesterday at the press conferences. He said to the media, you guys know who has more championships than anybody in this region? He said, it's not me, it's not Roy Williams, it's Ray Harper. 2 NAIA, 2 Division II titles. 4 more times he was in the finals of those divisional championships. So this is a heck of a coach, and now he's getting a chance to show what he can do at the Division I level.
Kansas in white, and they control his Withey, played by Roystow, Rutherford, McLemore, everyone touching the ball, Elijah Johnson.
Signature Bill Self offense. Swing the ball side to side, make the defense react, and then attack from there.
Oh, now 8 on the shot clock. Johnson with a beautiful move and puts it up for Withey, who just tips it home.
Marv, I have no idea how Johnson got the ball through that double team off that high screen. That was spectacular.
Western Kentucky going 20-15, 10-10 in the conference, and then won the Sun Belt Conference tournament by defeating FIU. That was back on March 11th. They have not played in nearly 2 weeks. Price, T.J. Price, averaging 15 points a game, shoots 40%, and 36 from downtown. It's a travel called on Young.
And the matchup to watch, more as we see this incredible move from Johnson and Withey with a nice finish. But the matchup to watch in this game is who's Withey going to guard for Western Kentucky. Right now it's Fant, which means Ray Harper will bring Fant out to the perimeter and give him the space to drive around the big 7-footer. If Withey goes on to Rostov, they'll have Rostov set up at the three-point line to try to bring him out to cover the three-point shot.
Brooks setting it up off the dribble.
There we go. That's Fant's advantage, that speed and quickness. That's too much for Withey. And Kansas is going to have to adapt and give him a little help on that matchup.
Western Kentucky off to the 5-2 start.
See, this is the advantage. If you take Withey away from the hoop, give Fant some room to roam, now all of a sudden he can attack and get there.
Foul committed by Price. And a whistle. Shot is blown off. A call against Kansas.
Offensive foul. I believe it was Kevin Young on an illegal screen. Watch right here. He kind of leans in. A second turnover for Young, who traveled a couple possessions ago. Very unlike Young, who's a smart player and a guy who doesn't make a ton of mistakes.
Here's Fant putting the move on Withey, able to drive. Withey got a piece of it, and it's hauled out by Young. Elijah Johnson met by Jamal Crook. Whistles are blowing early. And this call on Western Kentucky, it's on Rostov.
Well, Jeff Withey averages almost 4 blocks per game. And so even when you feel like you've got an edge on him, he's got the ability to recover on a play and still make the block. That was impressive. Fant had a shoulder by him.
And Withey, Kansas' all-time leader in career blocks, breaking the record that was held by Greg Ostertag. McLemore, played by Dickerson. Relaford. Young able to curl in, and Withey puts it down. The 7-footer averages 13 points, 8 rebounds, and you mentioned the block numbers.
But he's being asked to guard one-on-one on the perimeter right now, and that's probably his toughest task. Difficult matchup for Withey with Fant.
Crook into the paint. Here is Fant. McLemore with that hesitation move.
Very patient. We see how much he's grown as a freshman. He's going to take his time to get a good look.
Relaford. It counts, and the foul. Travis Relaford, a senior out of Kansas City, all Big 12, second team, all defensive team.
Oh, that play right there really shows you why Bill Self insists that his players swing the ball from one side to the other. McLemore didn't have a look. Just that pass to Relaford, making the defense change, gave him the angle on that drive. And frequently when you watch Bill Self's teams, if the ball sticks, that's his terminology, if the ball sticks, he will go nuts on the sidelines. He insists that that ball has to move.
Foul was called on Fant. Relaford not able to complete the three-point play, but Kansas up by 1. Brandon Harris coming on for Western Kentucky. Price lost it, so the ball back to Kansas. Kansas 29-5. A team consisting of 4 seniors and a freshman in the starting lineup. Rutherford watched by Price. Here is McLemore's first shot for 3. And they turn it over. Johnson open for 3. Rutherford gets to it. So a third opportunity for the Jayhawks. Withy battling in the post with Akanade, who just came on. Karo Akanade, a 6'7" junior out of Miami, now working at the defensive end against Withy.
Brandon Harris in as well. He was huge in that Sun Belt Conference title win over NIU, knocking down 4 threes. That one wins out.
And the follow is put in by Anebo. Kenny Anebo, 6'5" junior out of Bel Air, Texas. For Western Kentucky, going to the bench early. Just about 5 minutes gone by. And the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky up by a point. There's Young. Withy off the feed.
That's what Young does. He is a terrific interior passer, and he's basically playing the 4 position, Mark. So what he does is he moves around in the paint, just tries to find angles, and then looks for Withy down low.
That shot by Price off, and deflected out of bounds.
Yeah. And Nebo not used to seeing that kind of shot blocking in the Sun Belt.
Second block shot by Withy. So he does it at both ends.
Ernie Johnson in New York. Time for the All-State Good Hands update. Right now on TBS, Oklahoma and San Diego State. The Sooners' Jalan Hornbeek, the freshman with the high arcing jumper, connects. 5-point lead for Oklahoma as we get you back to KC. Marvin, Steve.
All right, thank you, Ernie. Earlier, it was Georgetown going down at the hands of Florida Gulf Coast, a 15 seed over a 2nd seed. So Florida Gulf Coast has advanced to the 3rd round. Another substitution for Western Kentucky. Kevin Kaspar, sophomore out of Turkey, has come on. 9th player to appear already on the floor for the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, Ray Harper is going to play a lot of people as he switches into this zone. He knows that Kansas is going to try to wear out his team, so he has to find some minutes from his bench.
And Perry Ellis, freshman from Wichita, has checked in for Kansas. He has really come on as of late. Fant with the hook, way off, got glass, but Rostov is right there.
That shot was so far off that it caromed right into Rostov's hand, so a fortunate break for the Hilltoppers.
Amir Tharp has also checked in for the first time for Kansas. That's Tharp with it. And they swing it with him. And the foul, it will count. Perry Ellis too strong for Kaspar, and he'll go to the line looking for a 3-point play.
Marv, you mentioned Perry Ellis has come on strong. In fact, he was the leading scorer for the Jayhawks in the Big 12 tourney. Made the all-tournament team. Look how strong that finish is. And if you think about this roster, Marv, the one thing that's kind of missing has been a strong scorer at the power forward spot. Obviously, Jayhawks lost Thomas Robinson, All-American last year, but Ellis has come on so strong that now they're getting that low post threat from him.
Good hustle by Ellis. Western Kentucky will hang on. Western Kentucky went through that rough patch during the season when their point guard Jamal Crook was sidelined. That was back in mid-December. He had fractured his foot. Missed 11 games, and the Hilltoppers lost 8 of the 11 with Crook out of action.
In fact, Marv, when he went down, Price missed 3 games. Fant missed a game with an injury and wasn't right for probably a couple weeks. So they really struggled. In fact, they've started 16 starting lineups this season. One of the biggest numbers you'll see in the NCAA this year. So this team really kind of came together late once they got healthy.
And Ray Harper said he was not making all those adjustments just to get the attention of his players. There were injuries that forced the changes in the lineup. And Rostov is fouled. Alex Rostov out of Riga, Latvia, has a great touch from three-point land. Although he averages just under 5 points a game, he shoots 55% from downtown. He's an 85% free throw shooter. Elijah Johnson called on the foul. You can watch live games on your computer, iPhone, iPad, and select Android devices with NCAA March Madness Live. Watch now at ncaa.com/March Madness, or you can download the app.
More substitutions for Ray Harper, clearly trying to keep his troops fresh. Crook comes back in, and we talked about the injuries. The biggest problem was when those guys went down, this team, the Hilltoppers, could not take care of the ball. They had 32 turnovers in a blowout loss to VCU. But now that they're healthy, they're doing a much better job execution-wise at handling pressures.
Caden Dickerson has returned, along with Jamal Cook. Here's Ellis getting inside. Nice move.
This is the next All-American Kansas big man. And there's been a wave of them. You think about the Morris twins and Robinson and Withy. It's like a machine. These guys practice against the older guys as freshmen, and then they just progress and get better and better as they move along in their careers.
Bad pass on the deflection. Here comes McLemore. Able to work his way inside, but took the extra step. Well, over on True TV, the final start of the evening in the second round, UCLA and Minnesota about to get underway.
Good start to the tournament for the Pac-12, going 3-0 last night, and then Colorado made a valiant comeback today against Illinois, down big at half, came back and took the lead, only to lose at the end. But I think Pac-12 probably has proven that a lot of their teams were underseeded.
Rutherford sits down. Jamari Traylor has come on. Brandon Harris is back for Western Kentucky. This is Dickerson. Played by McLemore. Harris. Picked up by Ellis. Shot clock down to 7. Dickerson. Rebounded by Ellis. The shot missed by Tharp. And the foul given by Ellis, preventing the layup. 11:20 remaining in this first half. Kansas by 2.
Welcome back to Kansas City. The Jayhawks lead the Hilltoppers by 2. It's time for the Power 8 sideline report. These two teams met in the NCAA consolation game 42 years ago. This is a box score from that game in which Western Kentucky won 77-75 behind 36 points and 19 rebounds from Jim McDaniels. Jim McDaniels' number 44 jersey has been retired, hanging from the rafters from EA Diddle Arena in Western Kentucky. However, it's also on the floor here tonight, being worn by his cousin, George Fant. When Fant went to Western Kentucky, he did not want to wear the jersey in respect to his cousin, but McDaniel said, take it down from the rafters, put it on your back, and make me proud.
It's amazing how things work out for Craig. He was at that game. You can see the notes on the box score.
I love the handwritten box score back in the day, too, just scribbled on a piece of paper. I tell you, it's amazing when you really look at it, the history and the tradition at Western Kentucky. Just so many players have been through there. And if you look at their NCAA tournament appearances, their 20-win seasons, I mean, they're up there with the big boys.
This is their 23rd appearance in the tournament. Last year, they lost in the second round to eventual national champion Kentucky. See the numbers here. Kentucky and North Carolina leading the way.
It's hard to find anybody, I don't care how big of a college basketball fan you are, hard to find anybody who would have been able to guess that Western Kentucky would be on that list.
And last year, Western Kentucky made the tournament despite the record of 16 and 18 by virtue of winning the conference tournament.
In fact, 2 years in a row now, Marv, Ray Harper's team has won 4 games in 4 days to advance to the tournament. Only time that's ever been done in NCAA history for a team to do it 2 years in a row.
Coach Fant looking back at the head coach. Incidentally, Ray Harper had a tough time yesterday. They did not believe that he was the coach of one of the teams participating when he came into the building. And they asked for ID, which he showed them. It still didn't matter. They had no idea who he was. He laughed about it.
I'll tell you what, they're going to know him now if he can pull off this upset.
Well, he said, I'm sure Bill Self did not ask the questions that he got asked when he came in.
Yeah, they rolled out the red carpet for Bill. Not easy playing in the backyard of a top-seeded team in the NCAA tournament, but boy, Western Kentucky, like a lot of these high seeds, has proven they're not afraid.
Oh, McLemore off the inbounds, preceded by the foul by Akamene. Ben McLemore with his first field goal. Jayhawks up by 2. Fant on the drive, going at Withy, got the step, and the ball deflected out.
Slow start for McLemore, but you see the just incredible talent, the leaping ability, the finish, and his jump shot. We haven't seen much of that yet, but it is smooth.
Fant again puts the move on Withy.
Yeah, there's that matchup again. Ray Harper trying to take advantage of the quickness of Fant against Withy.
George Fant, 6'6", sophomore out of Bowling Green, Kentucky. That will not count. It's waved off. Foul before the shot.
This is a kind of a game within the game. Fant knows he's got to get that ball up on the glass quickly. Withy knows he's got to retreat as fast as he can. And he's gotten him a couple times, but Fant has scored as well.
Foul committed by Dickerson. Inbounds to Withy. Now guarded by Rostow. Johnson spinning. Rebounded by Crook. Crook, who attended high school in Las Vegas, played in high school against Elijah Johnson, who was guarding him right here. Fant with a nice touch.
Well, they're hanging around, Bob. When you're trying to complete an upset like this, you just want to play kind of station to station, clock to clock, timeout to timeout. Divide the game up into 4-minute stretches, hang around, and make the favorite uncomfortable.
Look at our tournament summary. 15th seed Florida Gulf Coast defeating Georgetown earlier, the 7th number 15 to upset a number 2. Big East now 3-4 in the tournament with the loss by Villanova earlier tonight here in Kansas City as they lost to North Carolina. Despite the comeback, they were down by as many as 20. And Notre Dame, the other Big East team in the tournament, playing Iowa State, and that game on CBS. Crook with the bucket. Western Kentucky up by 4.
Changing their defenses, keeping Kansas off balance, and using their speed and quickness to force turnovers.
5 minutes remaining. First half, Kevin Young back on the floor. McLemore. Down low to Withy, played by Fant. Here's Withy, way off, and Rutherford with the bucket.
You know, Marv, it's difficult to play in the tournament as the favorite. You know it's a one-and-done situation. It's just kind of nerve-wracking, especially early in the tournament and early in games. And Kansas just needs to kind of weather the storm, keep playing, and understand it's a 40-minute game. You just got to grind it out.
Pass on the bounce that was broken up and a foul call.
You know, when Kansas has had its troubles this year, Elijah Johnson has not played well. He's turned the ball over during their losses. You see the reaction from Self. Johnson's kind of the wild card on this team. It's a very solid team, but when Elijah is not on his game and when he's turning it over, that's when Kansas is most vulnerable. We saw that when they lost 3 in a row during the middle of the season.
Foul called on Withy. Yeah, they have won 10 of the last 11. The one loss in that stretch at Baylor. Nice play as Alex Rostow extends to a 4-point lead. So they lost at Baylor, blown out by 23. The 10 of the 11 following the 3 straight losses to Oklahoma State at TCU at Oklahoma, which led to the strong words from head coach Bill Self. Here's Wiggy, call for the travel. And this after they opened the season at 19-1, but a very unhappy 8-day stretch for the Jayhawks. Self calling his team's performance at TCU the worst since James Naismith coached against the Topeka YMCA.
Oh, that was a great press conference. That was highly amusing.
Bill Self said we had no personality, no bounce. We had lost confidence at that time. Fant triple teamed and lost it. Perry Ellis able to take it away.
Ellis and Traylor now on the front line for Kansas.
Far. There's a 3-point attempt, rebounded by Price. Price put it behind the back. Rutherford hit the deck. Price from long range, way off. So the ball back to Kansas.
Well, Kansas off to the slow start here, and they've been sloppy. Look at Young turning his back. Rostov goes right around him. Tharp is no help. Easy bucket for the Hilltoppers. They got a 4-point lead.
Coverage of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is sponsored by Infinity, CDW, and by Degree.
Look at the game summary with Western Kentucky up by 4. They have shot 8 of 18. Kansas 8 for 17. Kansas turning it over 6 times. Kansas, incidentally, leads the nation in field goal defense. Opponents held to 61 points a game and held to 36% shooting.
That's what makes that 8 for 17 mark for the Hilltoppers that much more impressive.
Here's the trap. Rutherford has it. Played by Price. Tharp and Johnson in the backcourt now. Ellis is up front. Ellis spinning his way. It counts in the foul. Gorgeous move by the freshman from Wichita.
He has really come on, Mark. Kansas fans were expecting him to be a star right away, but a very slow start to the season for Ellis. But his work and his patience and the coach's belief in him has just paid off as he's now become a major force. We mentioned it, all-tournament team for the Big 12 tournament.
Hikaru Akamine on the foul. 3-point play for Ellis off the bench for 7 points. Kansas within 1, and this crowd comes alive. As you'd expect, it is a Kansas crowd. Fant backs his way. Boy, he has quite an assortment of moves.
He's something down low, Marv. And when Western Kentucky's at their best, it's when Fant is scoring down low and Price is also engaged. That's probably the next step for Ray Harper. Can he get TJ Price involved and get both players active and potent?
8 points for Fant, 4 of 8 from the field. McLemore, Ellis. McLemore with the shot. Rebounded by Price. Lead pass that went astray, but we get a whistle. And a foul called on Kansas. It's on Ellis. That's his second.
That was lucky, Marv, because that was a bizarre pass from Price. I mean, there was nowhere to go with that ball. He threw it out of bounds, but very fortunately for Western Kentucky, a foul called underneath. And they continue to do everything they need to do. Take care of the ball and rebound. And what a start for these guys.
Here's Price for 3. Fant with the rebound. Jeff Withey is back on the court. Fant goes right at him. Withey knocked it aside. Tharp pushing it for Withy. Good look from Tharp. And that leads to a timeout. Western Kentucky with the 1-point lead. Just under 6 to go, first half. Be the first to know the latest news on all your teams with Bleacher Report's Team Stream app. You can stay one step ahead. Check out Team Stream on your iPhone, iPad, or Android device.
Ray Harper takes Fant out of the game. He was furious during the timeout because there's a wild shot at the other end, either a shot or a pass, I'm not even sure. But an unforced error that automatically leads to transition. And Ray Harper let Fant have it and took him out of the game.
So Dickerson is back on. Here's Price for 3. Rebounded by Rostov. Hooks it in. Off glass over Ellis.
A talented player, Rostov. And he really emerged when their starting center, Ching Ecole, was suspended for the rest of the season for academic reasons. And that gave Rostov the opportunity to start, and he's making the most of it.
A long three-point attempt by Elijah Johnson, handled by Crook. Beautiful pass, but Dickerson not able to finish. Another Kansas turnover. Rostov dumps it down low. And a traveling call on an Ebo.
That's where you got to just throw the ball back out. If you're an Ebo, that's not your game. You got the best center defensively in the league or in the country on your back. There's no way you're going to score over the top of them. So throw the ball back out. Go set a screen.
Yes, Jeff Withy, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year for the second straight season.
How about 9 straight years that Kansas has won the Big 12 regular season title? That's one of the most remarkable records going in college basketball. You know how hard that is, especially these days.
Johnson, and the foul on Western Kentucky. A blocking foul is called. But for Kansas, it is their 42nd appearance in the tournament. They made it the last 24, and Nebo called on the foul. The last 24 consecutive seasons, that is the longest active streak. They have been to 14, and they come into the tournament winners of 10 of their last 11 games.
But they look nervous right now. And sometimes when you're playing in front of your home crowd in an early round game, you see there's that active streak, 24 in a row. But you know, the crowd can almost work against you, Marv. Every missed shot, every turnover, you hear these gasps and kind of this angst from the crowd. And all of a sudden, you tighten up as a team. They've got to loosen up, just keep playing, and eventually break through.
Elijah Johnson takes a seat. Travis Rutherford checks back in. And Western Kentucky continues to shuffle as Rostov comes back. And Nebo sits down.
We should mention, too, earlier in our studio, Rex Chapman picked the Hilltoppers. He said this is going to be the first 16-1 upset in the history of the tournament. So we'll keep an eye on that, Rex, but you're off to a good start.
Price's pass broken up, stolen by Young. Has he adopted Western Kentucky because Kentucky obviously did not make it to the tournament?
Actually, the Harper family and the Chapman family are very close. I think Rex's father, Wayne, and Ray are best friends, so there's a little home.
So you're saying it was an insincere prediction?
Yeah, probably. Just trying to be nice.
Fan back on the floor. Rutherford nearly picked that pass off. So Withy out deep. Defending Fan. Price goes baseline to draw the foul. And you can hear the Kansas portion of this crowd not happy with it. Withy picks up his second, and we'll take a break.
Ernie Johnson in New York. Look what happened a short time ago on CBS. Will Clyburn, 5 dribbles and an uncontested layup to beat the clock at halftime, and a 12-point Iowa State lead over Notre Dame. Somewhere Danny Ainge is saying, I did that against Notre Dame once too. Marvin Steve.
All right, Ernie. And Ohio State waiting in the wings for the winner between Notre Dame and Iowa State.
That was one of the iconic moves in the history of this tournament. Of course, that was done at the end of that Notre Dame game. Ainge winning the game for BYU. Spectacular play.
And that was the day there were, what, 3 or 4 incredible endings.
Yeah. That was back when the upsets were less common. You know, the power teams were truly dominant, and some of those upsets that day were really, really major.
Remember U.S. Reed beating
Arkansas?
Yep. Beating the defending champion Cardinals of Louisville.
Yep.
Coming up on 3 minutes to play in this first half. Kansas turns it over. Turnover number 8 by the Jayhawks. Brandon Harris back in at the point. Harris and Kaspar in the backcourt. The shuffling continues for Western Kentucky. They've been certainly successful with it. The pass down low to Fant. And a foul on Kansas.
Yeah, Ray Harper, Marv, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's going against this powerful Kansas club. He has to conserve the energy of his starters. That's why you're seeing him funnel bench players in and out.
Foul committed by Traylor. Both teams in the 1-1. Celebrate 75 years of March Madness by voting for your all-time players, teams, and moments of the NCAA tournament. You can vote now at ncaa.com/March Madness. Fought, tough pass inside. Somehow was able to find Traylor. The game is tied at 25.
Bill Self has gone to a very versatile defensive lineup, basically 4 wings along with Traylor.
Price looking for the shot. Harris, Fant, shot clock to 10. Fant pulls his way, called for travel.
This is Self's speed lineup, Marvin. I think he just wants to put some extra pressure on Western Kentucky. To this point, the Hilltoppers have done an excellent job of handling that pressure defense, but Kansas now turning it up a notch.
Ray Harper in his 2nd season as head coach of Western Kentucky. Got a start in coaching as a graduate assistant at Virginia Commonwealth back in 1985. He was also a very good player. Division II All-American career at Kentucky Wesleyan, where he eventually ended up coaching and winning a couple of championships. And a palm is called, palming violation. So the ball back to the Hilltoppers.
Turnover number 9 now, Marv, for Kansas. We talked about it earlier. They average 14, so they are vulnerable at times to mistakes, and you can bet Bill Self's going to talk to his club about that at halftime.
Jamal Crook is back, handles against Elijah Johnson. Rostow has that good touch.
That inside-out game with Rostov and Fant, awfully difficult to guard.
Johnson with the runner. It counts, and the foul. Foul on Fant, that's his 2nd.
Watch the move here. Fant sliding over, but good call. Not there. He tries to kind of lean over, and Johnson able to finish and draw the foul.
Elijah, senior out of Las Vegas, had that huge game in the overtime win over Iowa State. That was back in late February, a career high.
39?
39,
yeah.
Yes.
Remember all the big shots he hit in the NCAA tournament last year, too. Marv, game after game, Johnson made big plays.
Kansas with its first lead since earlier in the half. Coming up on a minute remaining in this first half. Crook got the step.
You take Withy out, and you eliminate the shot blocking at the rim.
Thompson pass broken up. Good hands by Brandon Harris. Bill Self out of Edmond, Oklahoma. He played his college basketball at Oklahoma State. 10th year as head coach of Kansas. What a resume he has. Oh, it's picked up by Relaford, nearly turned over, and Relaford is fouled.
Bill Self is steaming right now. He's so upset at Tharp for trying to dribble through that defense. Turnovers have just killed this team in the first half and allowed Western Kentucky to stay in.
Foul on Rostov, that's his second. Coming up on AT&T in the half, we'll get you caught up on all the latest tournament news, highlights, updates, all coming up. AT&T at the half. Rutherford 80% at the line. All Big 12 second team, voted to the Big 12 all defensive team. Senior out of Kansas City, who has been a valuable player even when he was coming off the bench the last couple of years.
Yeah, does a little of everything, can guard multiple positions, will make an open shot, and just a smart player, makes good decisions.
Kansas with a 1-point lead. This is a #1 seed playing a number 16 seed. A 16 has never beaten a 1.
But the talent disparity, Marv, is not glaring. Western Kentucky is quick and active, and they've got some depth as well.
Crook again with the step and banks it in. 6 points for Jamal Crook.
5-second shot clock differential with the game clock for Kansas. Let's see what they do.
McLemore. Tharp pulls it back out. Played by Harris, and now drops off. Tharp with a crossover. Finds Traylor. McLemore reaching for it, could not get to it. Oh, the steal. And then it's recaptured. Oh, and almost went in from beyond the half court. Halftime in Kansas City, and Western Kentucky with a 1-point lead over the Jayhawks of Kansas. The High Point men, Alex Rostov with 9, George Fant with 8. Jeff Withy leads Kansas with 8 points. Let's go to Craig.
Well, Coach, we never had a 16 seed beat a #1 seed. It's going to happen sometime. What was your message to your team? And what does this 1-point lead at halftime, what confidence does that give them?
Well, it means we got 20 more minutes, and they're an awfully good basketball team with an awfully good basketball coach. So, you know, the job's only half done. But, you know, our kids competed, and we took a few bad shots, and we've got to eliminate this half.
All right, thanks a lot. Good first half. Back to you, Marv.
All right, thank you, Craig. And at the half, Western Kentucky 31, Kansas 30. And right here, we'll send you to AT&T at the half. Following a quick break, you're watching the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship.
AT&T at the half is presented by AT&T. Rethink possible.
Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel. Welcome to AT&T at the half. Number 16, Western Kentucky, leading #1 Kansas, 31-30. I'm joined by Greg Anthony, Kenny Smith, and Charles Barkley. What do we have brewing here out in Kansas City, Missouri?
This is amazing. One thing about this Western Kentucky team, they've had 16 different starting lineups this year. The one that they have on the floor tonight, I think they've gone 7-0 on the season, and more impressive that their best player, TJ Price, only 1 of 5 from the field with 4 points, yet they still lead by 1 over the #1 seeded Kansas Jayhawks. They have been very impressive in the first half.
Well, to me, it's more about style of play, Greg.
And what the Hilltoppers have done is they've forced Kansas into a style of play right here that they don't want. They are trapping in the backcourt, and they're forcing McLemore and Relaford to make basketball decisions. You would think that because they wanted at one time was the #1 team in the country, that they have the ability to make basketball plays. But there was something that the Hilltoppers saw in their film and their scouting that said, no, if we get the ball out of the point guard's hand, Relaford and McLemore, they stop and hold it, which then allows the Hilltoppers to get back and play 5-on-5 defense. You have to penalize people for pressuring you in the backcourt. And Kansas, if they play tentative and they hold the basketball and allow the Hilltoppers to get back and play 5-on-5, they will lose this game.
Is this something Bill Self can correct in the locker room at halftime?
No, he can't do that. They've got to. They're making it. They got to make it a full court game. You know, West Kentucky's done a fantastic job. They're making their shots. They're putting pressure on the guards. Kansas is really struggling in a half-court set, but they got to find a way to get this game sped up so their talent can take over. We've been saying this all night and last night. When you have more talent, you can't play in a half court. You want the game full speed, so they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, but if they play in a half court set, it becomes irrelevant.
But it seems like to me that like the Hilltoppers are saying, okay, play full court. But Kansas, when they have the opportunity, is they're bringing the ball back out, which allows the defense to reset, which makes no sense to me, whatever. McLemore and Relaford, when they get that ball on the wing, they can go and they have the opportunity, and they're not taking advantage of it.
That's why they have to speed up the game. If you play in a half court, you take the talent out of the game. You've got to get McLemore and Relaford out on the wings. You got to push it. You got to push it to push it. But to do that, first you got to get stops, and they're not getting a lot of stops right now.
Well, their starting backcourt, Elijah Johnson and Ben McLemore, combined 2 of 9 for the game. Look for Bill Self to maybe go with Nadir Tharp at the point, moving Elijah Johnson to his natural position, which is the off guard, and then Ben McLemore at the small forward. Now, when you get the ball out of Tharp's hands, you have 2 guys on either side who are attackers. Relaford and Young aren't great attack players offensively. They really rely on the other guys to set them up. That has to happen in the second half.
How about what's going on in Austin, Texas? Minnesota with the lead over the 6th seed in the South, the UCLA Bruins.
Well, the only thing I look at when I look at a Minnesota Golden Gopher game is the turnovers. They only had 2 in the first half, and if they take care of the basketball, it allows them to defend. UCLA at one point only 5 of 20 from the field, and right now the Golden Gophers dominating this game on both ends.
Well, they're dominating as well because Jordan Adams, UCLA's most consistent basketball player all year, is not there. He's a guy who can get you 25 to 30 points, but not only getting the points, he's efficient with his shooting, and he's timely with his shooting. Because of his age and his stature, he was more under control than maybe a Muhammad is at this time in his career, and he is the stabilizing force. And when he went down and broke his foot on the last game of in the conference finals, that to me was the difference on why UCLA is down 33-19.
Yeah, and I was surprised that UCLA was such a high seed losing Adams, and because they're not the same team at all.
All right, Chuck. So it's right now it's a 33-19 lead for Minnesota under 4 minutes to play. Meanwhile, Oklahoma against San Diego State. That was the Sooners by 2 at halftime.
Yeah, this is going to be a competitive game. Lon Kruger has done a great job in his second season with the Sooners, trying to resurrect that program. And Steve Fisher has been a model of consistency with the Aztecs since he's been there at the helm. Competitive game. Both teams like to get up and down. Jamal Franklin probably the best player on the floor for San Diego State, but right now they are being challenged.
And San Diego State is another team that you don't see a lot of on national television, but they have a lot of different players. They're always going to be right at the top in their conference, and this is going to go down to the wire.
And we talked about their conference, the Mountain West. They're one of the more underrated conferences. I obviously know New Mexico lost, but they played against quality competition all year, so they're going to be there to the end.
Meanwhile, Iowa State and Notre Dame. This game, 16 minutes to play in regulation, and Iowa State with a 10-point lead on the Irish.
Well, Iowa State came out with great defensive intensity. They forced 14 turnovers in that first half that allowed them to take control. Let's see if Notre Dame can make the adjustment, take a little bit better care of the basketball. But you got to be impressed with Iowa State. Will Clyburn, these guys are athletic. They like to get out on the open floor, and they've done just that thus far in this game.
And just because you're a higher seed don't mean you have every advantage in every part of the game. And with Notre Dame, I believe Grant is the only person who can stay in front of his man. So, okay, yeah, you have an advantage, but the advantage is in foot speed. Your advantage isn't in the open floor. So how do you do Notre Dame? They have to go back into a zone
probably more, and slow the game down and slow that tempo down for about 3 or 4 possessions and make Iowa State a little bit more anxious to shoot the basketball, because right now they're in a comfort zone.
Okay, meanwhile, until Western Kentucky makes a bigger bang on the court, the biggest noise has been made tonight by Florida Gulf Coast against Georgetown.
Found the three. Oh, no. Oh, no. Brown. Comer. Up the top. Oh, he drops the end. Welcome to your Kodak moment, my friend. Not worried about the pressure. And maybe their biggest win of the season comes in the NCAA tournament.
This is extremely disappointing, and it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to be standing here right now talking to you, but at the same time, in spite of what they're going to hear, what they're going to read, what people are going to say about it, I'm proud of them.
Chuck, this is a big win for Florida Gulf Coast. The question is, do they feel that they're good enough to be able to carry it over to the next game?
Listen, they beat Georgetown and Miami. They feel like they can beat anybody. It was a fantastic game. I feel for Coach Thompson. I do. I love him and his father. But I'm happy for those kids from Gulf Coast. That was awesome.
Yeah, I think overall, the one thing that you see again is you have to figure out a way to get people out of their comfort zone. And Florida Gulf Coast was in their comfort zone. And Georgetown is the master of the 7-point win this year. And they were able to give the ball to Otto down the stretch, and he was able to make plays. But when they got down 6 or 7 points, they weren't able to get it done.
It's a big win for the Eagles, arguably a bigger loss for Georgetown. It's the second time in the last few years where they came in with a lot of momentum, high expectations, and they had an early exit.
Florida Gulf Coast is on the map. Thanks for watching AT&T at the half. Back for the second half after this.
AT&T at the half is presented by AT&T. Rethink possible.
Greg Gumbel in New York with a tournament update. Minnesota, UCLA headed for halftime. The Gophers looking for a halftime lead. Austin Holland's 3 of his 11. Minnesota leads at 33-21. They're under 2 minutes to play. We'll send you out to the second half of Western Kentucky and Kansas in just a moment.
We're back in Kansas City. A strong performance in the first half by the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. 1-point lead over Kansas. Earlier tonight, North Carolina knocked off Villanova 78-71 as they move forward to round number 3. And this is the scene about a half hour ago in the Tar Heel locker room.
You guys didn't see all of it because I asked him. He licked his lips a little bit first. All right. Tough question. 32. Atta boy. Yeah. Still in there. North Carolina's still in there. That's what it's all about. North Carolina's still in there. Hey, let's bump. Yeah!
Well, Coach, you have a partisan crowd on your side, but right now they are pretty nervous. What's the pulse?
Coverage of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is sponsored by Buick, Gatorade, Allstate, and by Bud Light.
Western Kentucky, the number 16 seed in this region, with a 1-point lead as we head to the second half over the top seed Kansas. Just moments ago, Craig Sager talked with Bill Self.
Well, Coach, you have a partisan crowd on your side, but right now they are pretty nervous. What's the pulse of your team?
Well, I think we're okay. We played tight the first half. It wasn't from a lack of effort, but when you play tight, you just look slow and everything else. And plus, Western Kentucky played great. They pressured us out of everything and did a good job on the glass. We just need to relax and play a little bit.
All right, thanks a lot. Back to you, Marv.
All right, Craig. Western Kentucky led by as many as 4. Tight game throughout. Kansas did have a 2-point lead early on. 6 ties, 11 lead changes in that first half.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for Kansas, Ben McLemore was just 1 for 4. Really didn't look to assert himself. And he's the guy they need to get going to kind of open up this Western Kentucky defense.
Hilltoppers in possession. They're in the red. Jayhawks of Kansas in the white uniforms. Crook watched by Johnson. This is Price, played by Relaford with help. Fant. Young jumping out. Rostov coming up short. Kansas in possession. Here comes Elijah Johnson. Relaford. McLemore. Withy up top, gets it down low to Young. Had a good look. Here's Crook challenging Withy. Crook on the follow, and it's rebounded by Young.
You just can't challenge Withy in those situations. There's no advantage for Crook. He's got to pull the ball back out, but he's not used to playing against somebody like Withy.
McLemore lost it. Dickerson protecting the dribble. Fant, who had the good first half. Dickerson hit the deck again. And what do we have developing here?
Now Johnson and Dickerson were tied up. And I don't know what the call is going to be, but while Dickerson was on the ground, Relaford was just kind of hovering over him. Now a little push here and then a push back. And I like the officiating. Just get them together and say, that's not going to happen, and let's play on.
The lead official, Mike Kitts, was right there.
That's good. No reason to call a double foul. Just stop it and say, hey, let's clean it up and play on.
Minute and a half gone by in the second half. And it's a shot clock violation.
Yeah, no awareness, and I think part of the problem was because of that play, the game was interrupted, and Ray Harper's team forgot to check out the shot clock. But what they're going to need more of is Price and Rostov, Dickerson. One of those guys is going to have to step out and make a 3 to open things up for Fant again down low.
Rutherford gets it inside for Withy. Johnson. Young from straight away. Young on the rebound and goes to the reverse. Kevin Young, the 6'8" senior from Paris, California, his first points of the night. Kansas back on top by 1.
Well, that got the crowd out of their seats, Marv. Let's see if Kansas can pick up its defense here and start to force some tempo.
Price getting the screen, very tight screen. Here's Price on the drive. Withy altered that shot. McLemore on the move. It's a 2-on-1. Rutherford from McLemore. Kansas by 3. And that represents their biggest lead of the night. Timeout called by Ray Harper of Western Kentucky.
Boy, that play from Young, Marv, just ignited the crowd and maybe ignited the team too. A spectacular reverse dunk, then a stop at the other end that leads to this, and finally a little run for KU.
Look at the first half stats presented by Coke Zero. Western Kentucky 13 of 27 from the field. Kansas 12 for 25. Too many turnovers. They committed 9. And here in the second half, the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky 0 for 4. 1 turnover, have not scored. Kansas with 4 straight points to take the lead.
Well, we heard Bill Self tell Craig Sager that he thought his team was tight, and that led to some of those turnovers and missed shots. It feels like they're starting to loosen up here, Mark.
Rostov, who shoots 55% from downtown. He's now 5 of 6 with 11 points.
Beautiful stroke from Rostov, and as a big player, being able to stretch the floor, it really puts a lot of stress on your defense.
Withy taking that nice lead pass from Johnson and is fouled. And it is on Alex Rostov.
That's his third, Marvin. That's significant. Ray Harper needs him out on the floor because of that offensive threat.
Johnson watched by Crook. Whoa, that pass off the mark, and McLemore tried to save it, stepped out.
Yeah, there's one of those turnovers from Johnson where Bill Self just kind of looks at him like, what are you doing? And it's a mistake that maybe a freshman should make, but not somebody who's been around as long as Elijah Johnson.
Kansas needs offense from Ben McLemore. Has been kind of passive to this point, 1 of 4 from the field. Here's Crook, saw the opening, gives it back. Dickerson on the pull-up. Look out. He stepped out right in front of the Western Kentucky bench. Kevin Young try to save it.
Ray Harper will keep Rostov on the floor with those 3 fouls. So if you're Kansas, when you get the ball back, maybe you go at him, force him to defend so that he can, maybe you pick up that 4th foul.
Rostov gets it down low, Fant, rebounded by Young.
But you see that the effect of that inside-outside game with Rostov and Fant, pretty impressive. Looks like Western Kentucky's in a matchup zone now, Marv.
Bad pass, and it's handled by Fant.
Yeah, Kansas was confused offensively. Another example of Ray Harper mixing up his defenses and just keeping the Jayhawks off balance.
3rd turnover committed by the Jayhawks in the early moments of this second half.
Remember last year it was Bill Self who would go to that triangle and 2 throughout the NCAA tournament.
Crook wide open off the good cross-court pass from Fant. Johnson on the move and has to pull it up. McLemore try to squeeze through, got it to Young, who stuffs.
That's the Kansas offensive execution that we've seen for years. The ball swinging side to side, putting a lot of pressure on the defense.
Kansas by 3. Western Kentucky 1 of 8 from the field in the second half. 5.5 minutes gone by. The winner will face North Carolina in round 3 on Sunday. Shot by Crook is off. 3-on-2 for the Jayhawks. Young trying to find Rutherford and picked off. Young tried to knock it aside. Price recovers and then throws it away. And Ray Harper upset.
Tempo getting a little out of hand for Western Kentucky. Harper needs to settle his team down.
Ernie Johnson in New York. On TBS, Oklahoma and San Diego State were tied at 48. And then the Aztecs put an 11-3 run on them, capped by that 3-pointer by James Rahan. And they lead at 59-51. Marvin Steve.
All right, Ernie, the NCAA tournament continues tomorrow at noon Eastern on CBS with Michigan going up against VCU. And at 5 p.m., TNT has the Infinity tip-off. 8 games across CBS, TNT, and TBS over the course of 12 hours.
Marv, we've talked a lot about Kansas tonight and just the makeup of their team. And the one thing that is missing is that interior scorer. And I think that's what's hurt them tonight. They haven't been able to go into Withy for a basket. They're playing Young and Relaford for the most part at the forward spots because of their experience. But they haven't been able to get any scoring on the block. That's what Perry Ellis can do. I'm not sure Bill Self is ready to give him that responsibility in a game like this yet.
Ellis effective in the first half. off the bench, 3 of 4 from the field, 7 points, 3 rebounds. Bill Self staying with his starting lineup here.
And with McLemore struggling, just 1 of 4, you see the inability to score. Foul there, the block from Dickerson.
McLemore making a strong move. Dickerson tried to cut him off and picks up the foul.
This was close to being an offensive foul because of that left arm. The problem was Dickerson didn't have his feet set, didn't quite have offensive position, but that very easily could have gone the other way.
Second on Caden Dickerson. Johnson pops it back out to Rutherford. Withy posting up. Nice move. Could not finish. And last touched by Kansas.
Well, they got lucky there. Western Kentucky did. Withy had what looked like a relatively easy shot. And now if you're the Hilltoppers, look at this lineup, Marv. You've got Anebo and Akamene out there. Harris handling the points. So your 3 stars really, Cook, Fant, Price, all on the bench. They've got to find some scoring here with this lineup.
Western Kentucky just 1 of 9 from the field over the first 7 minutes of this second half.
And I stand corrected. Price is on the floor, and he's the go-to guy now in this lineup.
Block shot by the combination of Young and Withy, but they throw it away. Dickerson is on it, and foul is called. Dickerson spending a lot of time on the floor.
He is.
Not on the floor, but
literally on the floor.
Literally, yes. McLemore called on the foul, his first. Now here's Jamal Crook checking back in.
And Fant. So that was just Ray Harper trying to buy a couple minutes rest for his stars. And you look at McLemore, leading scorer, just 2 points. You said it, Marv. He's been passive.
Harris way off of that corner jump. Tharp is back, puts a move on Harris. Withy from straight away. So Jeff Withy showing us has the touch for the open shot. He's 5 for 7, 10 points. He has 4 block shots.
And once again, the crowd off their feet. They're desperate, Marv, for their team to break this thing open and give them a little relief.
It's the biggest lead tonight for either team. Fant gets inside, it's blocked, but a foul. Withy got a piece of it, but the foul called.
That's going to be number 3 on Withy. Perry Ellis is going to come into the game now for Bill Self. So you lose a little something defensively, but I would look for Kansas eventually to try to pound the ball into Ellis. I think they've got a big edge in there.
George Fant, only a 60% free throw shooter. Get coverage of the Division I women's basketball tournament at ncaa.com/women's. Final 4. George Fant, 6'6" sophomore out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, averages 13 a game plus 7 rebounds.
Well, I think it's a lot more fun to be the underdog in this tournament. I mean, you just feel the fear in this building. But if you're a 16 seed, you have nothing to worry about.
Nice catch by McLemore, and on the shot attempt, fouled by Fant.
Yeah, and we see it all the time in a lot of these games. Just, you know, Florida Gulf Coast, for example, today a 15 seed, just playing loose. And oftentimes, and that's not the case here with the partisan Kansas crowd, but a lot of times you get these neutral courts and the underdog team becomes sort of the darling, and all of a sudden everybody's on their side and the favorite starts to tighten up. Kansas has just not looked like themselves here tonight because of that factor, I believe.
We saw that the last couple of years with Shaka Smart's Virginia Commonwealth team, where people just rooted for them with no allegiance at all.
And one of their victims, remember, was this Kansas team that was favored to go on and win the title. That was the Morris Twins team. Thomas Robinson was a freshman. That was a loaded Jayhawks team that you could feel. I remember in the Alamo Dome that day, you could feel the anxiety of the Jayhawk faithful.
5-point lead for Kansas. Harris watched by Tharp. Rostov. Cook with the spin. Cook on the follow. 8 points for the point guard, Jamal Cook.
They are every bit as quick as Kansas. I think that's the most alarming thing if you're a Kansas fan, is you just don't see much of an edge athletically in this matchup.
McLemore gets the screen from Young. Finds the open Rutherford, way off on a 3. And Harris moves it across. Harris met by McLemore. So it's a combination of Harris and Crook at the guards. Shot clock down to 6. Rostov. Ellis pulls it down, so Perry Ellis back on the floor for the first time since that good stretch in the first half.
Hilltoppers were trying to get the ball to Fant, Marv.
Ellis, foul.
With Withey on the bench and Ellis on the floor, Western Kentucky can try to get the ball into the post to Fant, but Perry Ellis doing a pretty nice job defensively, and now he'll go to the line for a couple of free throws.
Stay tuned after the games for Inside March Madness presented by Buick on True TV. That last Western Kentucky foul was called on George Fant. That is his 4th, and that's a critical call against the Hilltoppers. Rostov has 3. As for Kansas, Withey with 3.
Where are they going to find points? That's the big question, Marv. Kansas has turned up its defense in this second half. You see Fant there. But Western Kentucky only has 6 points in the entire half anyway. But now your best low post player, your only low post player, goes to the bench. So you're going to see Rostov and Price as the focal point of the offense along with Crook.
Ellis, a 74% free throw shooter in the Big 12 tournament. He averaged 14 points in the 3 wins, including a career-high 23 in the semifinal victory against Iowa State. As we mentioned earlier, he has really come along. He said didn't have the confidence earlier, kind of a quiet kid, and has been much more aggressive and has done a nice job here tonight.
Been really good, and right now he's playing instead of Withey, who has the 3 fouls, but he's done a nice job defensively, and right here he's involved in the pick and roll with Price.
Price off on that shot, rebounded by Ellis. Tharp met by Dickerson. Ellis with the running one-hander, kept alive by Young.
Boy, Johnson had a wide open 3. He was so anxious to get it off as Young gets fouled going to the hoop. Johnson mishandled the ball. He was just trying to catch it and launch that 3.
Foul is on Dickerson. That is his 3rd, so Kevin Young, only a 60% free throw shooter at the line. Young with a couple of field goals, 4 points and 7 rebounds.
Just feels like Kansas is starting to wear down the Hilltoppers finally, Marvin. That's the beauty of this team and this program. Bill Self always has balanced units. They're capable offensively, sometimes explosive, but always great defensively. And this year, #1 in the country in field goal percentage defense, #3 in blocks. They're relying on their D right now.
Okaro Akamade has come back in, played briefly in the first half for Western Kentucky. Just under 10 minutes remaining, second half. Cook using the pick. Bad pass, but a foul call. And the foul is on Crook. That was a very poor possession by Western Kentucky. Only the first on Crook, but team foul number 6.
They may be a little tired more, but I think more than anything, the defense of Kansas has picked it up big time. That was brilliant pick and roll defense from Johnson and Ellis, and then weak side help as well. So Western Kentucky having all kinds of trouble just getting an open look.
Ellis inside as you saw. Rostov did not want to pick up a fourth foul. He stepped away. Meanwhile, at the other end, they get it down in a hurry. Okamide with the bucket.
How about that swing? I mean, that's an 8-point lead if Ellis can convert that.
Withy surrounded and was fouled.
If Ellis can make this shot right here, it's 8 points. You may get a timeout. The crowd is into it. You feel the separation, but instead it turns into a transition bucket right back to 4 points.
And Steve, that was Alex Rostov who picked up the foul on Withy, so he now has 4 apiece on Rostov, who heads to the bench, and Fant, the 2 key players.
Yeah, you just don't know where you're going to get scoring. And I mentioned it, it's hard enough anyway against this defense and the way Kansas is playing right now.
11 points for Withy. Always tough to tell when a team is off for a considerable amount of time how they will react, whether they'll be refreshed, whether they'll be a little loggy.
Yeah.
And this is a team that hasn't played in nearly 2 weeks. I'm talking about Western Kentucky.
Yeah, they have that early conference tournament. Gonzaga was in the same spot. We saw what happened with them yesterday. And Gonzaga hadn't played, I believe, in 10 or 11 days prior to that Southern game, and Southern almost pulled off the upset.
Western Kentucky won the Sun Belt Conference tournament, defeating FIU. That was back on the 11th of March. Price looking for his shot.
Relaford just all over him, Mark.
Shot clock to 5. Here's Crook challenging Withy. Kept alive by Drain, who just came on. And on the follow, Okamide. Stephon Drain, a 6'7" sophomore out of Raleigh, checked in for Rostov. And apparently there was some words again between Western Kentucky players and Kansas. They're pushing and shoving here.
Yeah, right here, Johnson just shoves him out of the way, but you gotta like the effort for Western Kentucky on the offensive boards.
4-point game. Kansas with a 45-41 lead. Ellis with room and time.
Too much time. He hesitated and he looks nervous, Marvin, and Bill Self's gonna get him out right now. Ellis so talented, but may not be quite ready for this moment.
8 minutes to go, second half. Crook feeding Drain. Okamide went to the left hand and rebounded by Ellis. Here comes Tharp, puts the speed on the runner way off, got glass.
Just an awful decision from Tharp. There was no advantage there. Pull the ball back out, get something better.
Crook weaves his way in, but Withy with another block shot. It's number 5.
He's just controlling the game the last couple of minutes.
Withy gets inside. Kansas up 47-41. Timeout, Western Kentucky.
Ray Harper has to make a decision, Marv. How long does he keep Fant and Rostov on the bench? His team cannot score unless it's transition or an offensive glass. And with Withy controlling the game, the Jayhawks looking to advance.
Marv Albert, Steve Kerr, Craig Sager, with Kansas taking command in the second half. Western Kentucky with a 1-point lead at halftime, and we have 7 minutes, 7 seconds remaining.
And Kansas just doing it with defense, Marv. That's again, the beauty of their team. They can beat you a lot of ways. You have to survive in this tournament and deal with some poor performances. You can do that with defense and rebounding. That's what's happening tonight.
Victories by Iowa State and San Diego State. See those final scores. There's Casper making the turn. Fant back in there playing with the 4 fouls. Price forcing and a foul in the act. So Price will head to the line. Relaford on the foul. That's his first.
Ernie Johnson in New York. You may have heard Marv mention it. Here's what happened. San Diego State 70-55 over Oklahoma, and even that goes in for Jamal Franklin. Meantime, Iowa State absolutely dismantling Notre Dame in Dayton. This is Boo Boo Paulo who knocks it down. They were up by 27, won by 18. Marv and Steve.
Thank you, Ernie. A look at the game summary with Kansas up by 6, and as you can see, Western Kentucky has really dropped off in the second half. Price at the line. He hit Western Kentucky's first field goal of the night, a three-pointer. Since then, 0 for 6 from the floor, and that only his second point since then.
Yeah, and this is a guy who had 21 against Kentucky last year in the second round. So, you know, their leading scorer, but Kansas has done a great job defensively on it.
Off the track, Kansas with difficulty, and turn it over. Kaspar, Price on the drive. Withy went for the fake, but still able to come up with block number 6, and then it's knocked out of bounds. Last touch by the Jayhawks.
You just don't see a shot blocker like this very often anywhere in college basketball, but much less in the Sun Belt. Price looks like he's got an advantage. He draws the pump fake, everything he does right, but Withy just too big.
Yeah, beautifully timed by Withy despite the good fake. 6 minutes remaining in the second half. And the jumper way off, attempted by Accommodate.
They're just going to have to make a couple of those somehow, because the only way they're going to score otherwise is in transition or maybe an offensive hoop. I don't remember the last time they scored in the half court.
Ellis gets it down low. Withy will go to the line.
And if that's Fant, that's number 5.
It is George Fant, who has just fouled out. The matchup between Fant and Withy at Western Kentucky's offensive end earlier working very well. But Fant getting himself in foul difficulty, and that'll do it for him. Rostov sitting out with 4 fouls.
Now you might as well bring Rostov back. I mean, you're at a critical juncture of the game. You're in danger of being maybe 1 or 2 possessions away from losing this game, frankly, the way this half has gone. So Rostov comes back with his 4 fouls.
And we always look to get opinions that are uttered frankly.
Just wanted to make sure everyone knew I was really serious about this
telling the truth in that particular instance. Fant leads with 10 points, 4 of 10 from the field, and now Withy at the line. You can follow tournament scores and news live on the CBS Sports app. Get it free by texting SCORE to 42777 or by visiting cbssports.com/mobile from your phone or tablet. Withy, a 71% free throw shooter. 6 blocks, 14 points, 4 rebounds for the senior out of San Diego, Jeff Withy. 6-point Kansas lead. Looking to advance to a 3rd round matchup with the Tar Heels of North Carolina, who had kind of a bizarre game, up and down. This is Kaspar Young with the rebound.
Good look there. Kaspar just couldn't get it to go.
Oh, McLemore able to go the distance.
Finally, he breaks through. Been a quiet night for Ben McLemore, but that one brought the crowd to its feet.
2 of 5 shooting, just 6 points. Price got a piece of the backboard, but it's kept alive. Another block, number 7 for Withy. McLemore chases it down and calls for time. He was on his way to a traveling violation. Now apparently he slid and made contact with the baseline.
Just slid out of bounds. He tried to catch up, just couldn't do it. But how about Jeff Withey? Marv, he's just dominated this entire second half with his shot blocking.
Bill Self encouraging McLemore, love the hustle. McLemore sits down. Now Brandon Harris back in for Western Kentucky. And Rostov also back on the floor. Crook using the screen. Rostov. Harris putting the move on Tharp, who knocked it away. McCominator. Good save there by Dickerson. And a holding foul indicated.
You know, Bart, in a game like this, even when you have an open look, if you're Western Kentucky, when you finally get one, you've been so frustrated the whole half because of the presence of Withey. Look at the blocks, 301. Just an amazing career for Withey. But even when Western Kentucky's open like here for Harris, they just can't get anything to go.
Withey snaps it down to Rutherford.
That's the true effect of a shot blocker, Marv. It's not the number of blocks. It's the mentality of the other team, just the frustration that sets in to the point where even when he's not around, you're thinking about it.
Just they alter shots, so there's Withey getting inside. What a tremendous all-around night for Jeff Withey. It was back in the Patrick Ewing days at Georgetown where they came up with a stat for altering shots, which Ewing obviously was very effective with. An ovation from this crowd. It's a Jayhawk crowd. Kansas settling down in the second half, and they lead it by 10. From executive producer Donnie Wahlberg, Real Cops, Real Crimes, Real Drama, Boston's finest. All new Wednesday at 9/8 Central on TNT. Western Kentucky with one timeout remaining. Bill Self of Kansas has 4 timeouts left. And Kansas up by 10, just under 4 minutes remaining second half. Dickerson shoots for 3.
He's had some good looks, Marv. Dickerson 0 for 5. And that's been the story. The looks that they've had, they just haven't been able to knock down. And now the Hilltoppers go back to a zone here. It's like a little matchup.
Young has it deflected out. And we will take another break. Kansas 52, Western Kentucky 42. Welcome back to Kansas City. Let's take a look at the Capital One Cup impact performance.
Well, Jeff Withey has just been spectacular, controlling this entire second half. Look at the number, 7 blocks, 17.7 of 9 field goals on a night when his teammates have really struggled to score. He's become the dominant force down low as well. And Withey, his performance and Kansas's overall performance defensively, the difference in the game.
5 of the 7 blocks taking place in the second half. Withey's career high, he had 12 blocks in the game against San Jose State last season. His tournament high 10 in the Sweet 16 against North Carolina State last year. Rutherford is pushed by Price. Western Kentucky 4 for 29 from the field, 13% shooting in the second half. Meanwhile, Kansas attempting only 15 shots, 7 of 15, and they have outscored the Hilltoppers 22-11 in this second half. 1-1 for Rutherford, an 80% free throw shooter.
And an 11-point lead in this situation, the way this half is going, it might as well be 20. Marv, it's going to take a miracle now for Western Kentucky. They've been getting a few threes so off of offensive rebounds, some loose balls. Those are the kind of shots that they needed just to hang in this game. They just couldn't make any of them. We'll see if they can somehow break the dam here in the last few minutes, get a couple shots to go.
Well, one of their star players, George Fant, is fouled out. This is Crook, and we get a whistle. Foul on Kansas, and Alex Rostov is playing with 4 fouls. Elijah Johnson is called on the personal. Crook to the line.
And bad foul there by Johnson, fouling the jump shooter. They're going to have to be a lot sharper, Marv, assuming they hang on and advance to play North Carolina. It's going to be a totally different game, but they've got to be much sharper, particularly offensively.
Well, someone's ready.
Yeah.
Looks like Scotch tape. They may have made a couple of changes.
You think they had Jay Wright there originally, and then maybe
ready to go a number of ways there. Jay Wright's Wildcats with a poor first half, and then came on late. North Carolina at one point reeled off 15 straight points. They finished up quickly. That counts as a foul. Jamal Crook will head back to the line.
Tough call there on Withy, who held his ground, kept his hands high. But give Crook credit. He really forced the action and kind of forced the contact. And Withy didn't quite have position. That's why he was called for the foul.
Number 4 on Withy. Crook looking for point number 11. Just under 3 minutes to play in the second half. Kansas up by 8. Western Kentucky puts the pressure on. Elijah Johnson gives it right back to Travis Relaford. They better hurry. They get it across.
Well done from McLemore, the freshman, coming up to relieve the pressure, giving his backcourt mates an outlet pass there.
Johnson with a wild pass, bad decision. Here's Harris for 3. Back tap. Young's pass hauled in by Crook, and a foul on McLemore.
Just sloppy play. Or, I mean, they've been in position to finish this game out in the last couple minutes, but turnovers, fouls. Bill Self is beside himself.
And that foul puts Kansas over the limit, so it'll be a 1-and-1 with 2:19 left in the second half. Kansas looking to hold on here, up by 8. Bill Self not a happy guy with his Jayhawks making a number of mistakes down the stretch. Kansas without a 3-point field goal tonight. The last time that happened, February of 2008.
And Western Kentucky 1 for 15 behind the line. So the two clubs a sizzling 1 for 21.
Crook at the line. And able to take advantage of the 1-and-1.
And unless Kansas can handle this pressure, the Hilltoppers have a chance. One of these days, one of those 3-point looks is going to go down, Marvin. All of a sudden, if you have a 1-possession game and you got Withy with 4 fouls, boy, it's danger time for Kansas.
Crook now 3 of 4 at the line. Important free throws right there. Cuts it to a 6-point Kansas lead.
Self goes with Nadir Tharp and Johnson, 2 point guards, plus you've got McLemore there. And the crowd, the Western Kentucky crowd wanted to travel on McLemore. That was very close.
Jayhawks able to work it inside. Relaford off a nice play against the pressure defense.
Really well done by Kansas. Much better handling that trap.
Here is Price from deep, and there is a 3 that goes down.
There it is. And the pressure comes right back.
They look to trap Johnson. Oh, a dangerous pass. And they throw it away. Another turnover.
This is just shocking. Well, Kansas had a dunk. Withy was wide open. But the decision making, take your time, make sure of yourself. You see the concern, the fear in the eyes of the Kansas fans.
17 turnovers committed by the Jayhawks. Looking very shaky in these final minutes.
Yeah, remember Davidson yesterday looked like they had their game against Marquette wrapped up, only to fall in the final seconds.
Minute 41 remaining. Western Kentucky has 1 timeout left. Kansas with 3. And the timeout now is taken.
Kansas with 17 turnovers, many of which are of the inexplicable variety. I mean, you're handling pressure. You've been facing teams that do this all year. You've got guards on the floor. It's about getting to the right spot and just being strong with the ball.
We're told it is not an official team timeout. They want to check the clock. The officiating crew over at the scorers table. At one point, Kansas led by 11. They were up 53-42. It's now a 5-point game.
And then if you're Western Kentucky, you're sitting here saying, couldn't we have just made 1 or 2 more of those threes in the second half? They had some open looks, but even with that horrible shooting, they're right here with a chance to pull within a basket.
TJ Price put it in play. Crook moves it across. Rostov rebounded by McLemore.
No fouls now for Western Kentucky. Lots of time.
Puts it in the hands of Johnson, and he gets it ahead for Relaford. They want to foul him.
I don't think they do. I don't think they should.
Well, you're right. They're going to play it out. It appeared they were going to go after Relaford, but they'll let him play it out, particularly at this time. Now 10 on the shot clock. Johnson working on Harris. Spinning. Rebounded by Crook. Here comes Crook. He accelerates. Came up short. He felt Elijah Johnson right on him.
Now you look to foul.
And there it is.
Oh, boy, you feel for Ray Harper, who's continuing to coach the rest of this game, making another substitution. He's done such a great job, and his teams have had so many opportunities around the basket at the three-point line. Here's Crook putting on the speed and just can't get it to go.
10th team foul, double bonus opportunity for Nadir Tharp. Good foul shooter, 24 for 27, 89% on the season, with 46 seconds remaining, second half.
2 #1 seeds, Marv. Yesterday, Gonzaga. Today, Kansas, both looking very shaky, but looking like they're going to survive. Gonzaga obviously did already. Kansas hoping to hang on here.
And North Carolina pushed by Villanova after jumping to that big lead.
Anybody's beatable. That's the lesson here. There were some good performances yesterday. Louisville looked great. Indiana today. VCU was awesome yesterday, but I think everybody's vulnerable.
Withy sits down with 40 seconds to play. Foul before the shot up high by Price. Foul on Relaford. So 1-1 for Price, a 70% free throw shooting, just 2 of 4 at the line tonight.
And Self had taken Withy out, I think because he wanted to cover the three-point line first and foremost. Withy now back in for rebounding purposes.
Back to a 6-point Kansas lead.
Remember, Kansas with 3 timeouts left. And they should not hesitate to use one if there's any sign of pressure.
Clutch free throws by Price, and here comes the pressure. Relaford looking to inbound. McLemore look to trap him. Tharp. Johnson. McLemore, and he's fouled. Good job getting it across. The foul on Accommodate.
That was close. Marva Kamene looked like he made a clean break on the ball. But McLemore is going to go to the line. McLemore never saw him. Watch this right here. He leans in. That looked clean. I'm not sure that was a foul. That's a tough break for Western Kentucky.
And it is the double bonus. McLemore hit his previous 2 free throws. He's an 87% free throw shooter. 7 points from McLemore. We're down to 33 seconds remaining, second half. So the freshman knocks down both, and a timeout is taken. When we come back, the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky in possession. 33 seconds to go.
Western Kentucky will not go away. Brandon Harris here with the pull-up 3 in transition. You see Young all over him, but Harris finally gets one to go. Just 1 of 6 on the night. Hilltoppers have been so tough and disciplined and well coached, and they're just hanging until the final moments. And now it's all about taking care of the ball against this pressure if you're Kansas. And boy, it's been an adventure getting the ball up the court.
Rutherford will inbound. Good job again here by Western Kentucky, putting the pressure on, and a foul is given by Casper.
Now offense, defense now for Ray Harper. He didn't want Rostov to foul out. And so he brought in some reserves to try to get the steal, make the foul, and now he goes to his offensive lineup.
Nadir Tharp back at the line, hit the 2 of 2 just moments ago. A 90% free throw shooter. Substitutions now for Western Kentucky, including Rostov and Crook. Dickerson returns.
Yeah, I would look for Crook or Harris to push the ball. Looks like Harris is going to be the one with the back off the floor for Kansas, because again, Bill Self wants to cover all those three-point shooters, but they haven't done a great job of it here the last couple of possessions.
Clutch free throw shooting by Tharp down the stretch. He's hit 4 of 4. Down to 22 seconds remaining. 6-point lead for Kansas. Price for 3. Knocked out of bounds, and last touch by Kansas.
And no timeouts left here, so you got to go for a 3 here. And if you're Kansas, just cover the line. Don't even worry about a 2.
Harris from deep in the corner, rebounded by McLemore, and he is fouled by Dickerson. Down to 11 seconds remaining, but Kansas has been pushed here in the final minutes of the second half.
16th seeded Western Kentucky. Incredible effort, and Bill Self, I mean, in the tournament, you're just happy to advance, but tough to imagine him watching this tape and smiling at any point other than maybe one of Withy's blocks. But all it's about is moving on, and a brand new game on Sunday against North Carolina.
And Roy Williams has to feel the same way. He said, I heard the interview he did with Craig Sager for the studio. I'm just happy to come out of here. Of course, he's got to say that, but I'm sure when he looks at the tape, there'll be many notations.
Just win, baby, as Al Davis once said.
All right, here comes Crook. Final seconds. So Kansas making their last 8 free throws down the stretch. Price lays it in. And again, the foul is given with just 2.9 to go and a 6-point Kansas lead. Bill Self looking to wrap it to make it 7 straight opening round victories in NCAA tournament play, but we could see during the course of the second half, even after they started so strong. He was not happy with his team.
Well, he's had his share of heartbreak, too, in the early rounds. Or the Northern Iowa game a couple of years ago where they lost as a 1 seed in the second round. And you go way back. Bucknell and Bradley, both as big underdogs, knocked off Self's teams. But that's what you face when you're a 1 or 2 seed year after year. It's going to happen. And there's a ton of stress when you're the favorite in every tournament game.
A foul by Dickerson, number 5, so he departs, and Kaspar returns. McLemore to the line. He is 6 of 6 at the line.
The good news for Kansas, Marv, they've gotten some experience for McLemore and Ellis in particular. Those first tournament games can be a little nerve-wracking. I thought those nerves showed with both players. McLemore was tentative. Ellis passed up a shot, missed an easy one. I think the next game for both players will be a little more comfortable.
And that will wrap it. Kansas goes to 30-5 as they pull one out against Western Kentucky, 64-57. They now have won 11 of the last 12. They are headed to a Sunday matchup in what should be a terrific game against the Tar Heels of North Carolina. As for Western Kentucky, they go to 20-16, their first opening round loss in the last 4 NCAA tournament appearances.
Well, we get to look ahead to the Roy Williams-Bill Self drama that will undoubtedly be discussed the next 48 hours. But more than anything, this is just about 2 teams trying to get to the Sweet 16.
And the big star tonight for the Jayhawks, Jeff Withey, their 7-foot center, 17 points, hit 7 of 9 from the field, 6 rebounds, and how about 7 blocked shots. Jamal Cook led Western Kentucky with 13 points and 9 rebounds. Again, the final score, Kansas 64, Western Kentucky 57. The NCAA tournament continues live now on True TV with Minnesota and UCLA, followed by Inside March Madness, presented by Buick. For Steve Kerr, Craig Sager, and the rest of the crew, Marv Albert saying good night from Kansas City. We'll take a quick break and then send you to our NCAA studio.
Welcome back, everyone, as we continue along the road to the Final Four. I'm Greg Gumbel, along with Greg, Kenny, and Charles. A game just completed. Western Kentucky, nice challenge from the 16th seed in the South. Ultimately, Kansas too much. The Jayhawks win it by a score of 64-57. You got to tip your hat to Western Kentucky.
I tell you what, Ray Harper is a hell of a coach. You know, 2 seasons at Western Kentucky, 2 times they get to the tournament, and they didn't play like a team that was just happy to be there. They played like they had a chance to win. I didn't expect that kind of a performance out of them. I tip my hat to them, and if you're Kansas, you are just happy to be moving on because you got a scare tonight.
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout-out to my man Rex Chapman down in our Atlanta studios. He says to me early in the week, dude, I know you don't know a lot about Western Kentucky, but this coach, Ray Harper, is unbelievable. So I want to give my man Rex some love. But I was impressed with Kansas the way to battle. You know, everybody wants you, because you're a higher seed, to blow these lower seeds out. These lower seeds, as Georgetown found out tonight, they can play also. So great win by Kansas.
Yeah, overall, I think, you know, what Kansas was able to do is use their size. Regardless of what's going on, regardless of how things were going back and forth, they continued to go inside to Withey. And Withey was able to contribute both on the offensive end and defensive end. And that was the difference, that they didn't stray, even though the Hilltoppers started to move out. They didn't stray from their game plan to get the ball inside.
Western Kentucky, with reason to be proud, they come up just short, 64-57. Now, a reminder as to what's coming your way tomorrow. Basketball, lots of it. It all starts on CBS. VCU and Michigan at 12:15, and Memphis and Michigan State at 2:45 Eastern Time. Continuing on CBS, Colorado State and Louisville, tipping at around 5:15 Eastern. On TNT, it'll be Harvard and Arizona, and on TBS, Oregon and St. Louis. And then the day will wind up tomorrow with Butler and Marquette on CBS, Wichita State, Gonzaga on TNT, and California against Syracuse on TBS. A reminder also, tomorrow the Infinity NCAA tip-off show comes your way on TNT, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Recapping some late final scores for you. San Diego State moved on. They knocked off the Sooners of Oklahoma by a score of 70-55, and they will next meet Florida Gulf Coast. Iowa State knocked off Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish fall 76-58. Iowa State will play Ohio State. And still in action, Minnesota's Golden Gophers looking to wrap up the UCLA Bruins. They lead 81-63. That game is over on True TV. Earlier, North Carolina survived the challenge from Villanova, 78-71. It was win number 700 in the career of Coach Roy Williams.
I asked him, he licked his lips a little bit first. All right. Tough question. 32. That up, boy. Yeah. Still in there. North Carolina's still in there. That's what it's all about. North Carolina's still. Hey, let's bump. Yeah.
Congratulations to Coach Roy. As we were watching that earlier, Kenny, you said you haven't seen Roy Williams like that.
No, I haven't seen him that animated with the kids in the locker room, which is great. I think overall he understands that this is a young team that should value this experience that they're going through because they all haven't been there before, and this is something new for them. And this is so enjoying this moment. I thought was big for them.
You know what? I'm a huge Roy Williams fan. I love his passion and his fire to coach the game of basketball. For me personally, it's been a pleasure to be around, and he's a tremendous credit to the game. And his team will be ready to play in their next game against Canada. That's going to be a heck of a basketball game. I'm looking forward to see both those teams, two Titans colliding.
Tell me, what does North Carolina take away from this game that Western Kentucky played that they can use against Kansas?
Well, no, I don't think anything. I think they're two totally different teams. And I think that I got great admiration and respect for Coach Williams. But I think those players were excited because they got number 700 tonight because they know they wasn't going to get it next game.
They're not going to beat Kansas.
You've been wrong before.
I'm going to be wrong again, but I really like Kansas.
How many times have you been wrong?
Let me tell you something.
Well, we turn his board around. If we had it in here, it'd be very red. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, listen, we all miss games. But let me tell you
exactly. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I know you just a homer.
No question.
But Kansas is going to beat them like they stole something.
Okay. So the same thing you said to Harvard.
With that, be sure to tune in for Inside March Madness presented by Buick on True TV. Among tonight's headline stories, Florida Gulf Coast becomes only the 7th number 15 seed to advance. The top-seeded Hoosiers cruised into the round of 32, and the Atlantic 10, 6-0 in the tournament. Just ahead on TNT, who killed JR. Don't miss Dallas coming up next on TNT. For our entire March Madness broadcast team and for everyone here in the studio as well, I'm Greg Gumbel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.